Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. It is Friday, February 10th. It is 10 a.m. here on the East Coast. As some of you know, I am a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations to help them get measurable and sustainable sales increases. I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales and to create a destination where salespeople can hang out, network with each other, learn with each other, help each other, and increase their earnings. And every Friday at 10 a.m., we either do a live training or an interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. Today is, of course, no exception. We have a great guest for you, but he's having a few technical difficulties. So while he's trying to get his camera working, I will chat with you. First of all, if you're watching us live, please say hello in the comments. If you're watching us live on Facebook but have not connected your account to StreamYard, it's just going to say Facebook user when you say hi, so please put your name in there too. If you have any questions for our guest once we get his camera working, please put those in the comments and I'll pass them on. And if you're watching us on the replay, please do put replay in the comments. All right, let's see. Well, we've got some great comments already. I don't know who this is, but let's go, you stud. It's showtime, baby. Juggernaut Jeff in the house. I think I might have to steal that. And so darn handsome. Okay, so somebody needs to go to their eye doctor. Of course, it's my friend Craig Siegel, the motivational guru that I love so much. Good to see you with us today, Craig. While our guest, Raymond Cardinale, the founder of E3 Performance Solutions, is getting his camera working, I'm going to tell you something that I had a conversation about yesterday with one of my coaching clients. And he was telling me all about what he should do. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should be doing the other thing. And there's an old saying in the Landmark Forum, which I used to participate in actively: you could should all over yourself. You could should all over yourself. So either do it or don't, but there's no should in life. Do what you need to do. Get very clear on it. I'm guessing that if my friend Craig could go live with us right now, he'd tell you the same thing. It's not about what you should be doing. It's what about you're committed to doing. And that's a word I use all the time with my clients. And it's a word you should keep in mind for yourself. And I'll share something that I tell to my coaching prospects when I first speak with them. I don't care what you want. I don't care what you hope for. I don't care what your dreams are. I don't care what your goal. I don't care about anything except, by the way, as a human being, I care about those things. But as a coach, I only care about one thing, and that is, what are you committed to? What are you committed to accomplishing? What price are you willing to pay to get there? Because, my friends, there is a price to pay for everything. You want to have a great body like Craig Siegel, you're going to eat right and go to the gym every day, which clearly I'm not doing. You want to make a lot of money, you got to figure out a way to do that. Come up with a plan and implement that plan. Wanting to make a lot of money, wanting to have a great body, lovely. That just doesn't do anything. It's like prayer. It's a great idea, but I'm not sure the prayer does anything. Action does something. And that's why I also take exception with so many of the gurus about the law of attraction. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, but most of the books and movies about it said that all you have to do is think the right thoughts and feel the right feelings, and you're going to have everything you want in life. Well, what they did is they left out one thing. They left out the fact that you have to think the right thoughts and feel the right feelings and take massive action. If you're not willing to take action and pay the price for the things you're committed to, then you're simply not going to get there. And I see our guest has fixed his camera, so I'm going to bring him in just a second. Let's say we have somebody who's saying morning all to you too. I'm not sure who you are. Ben Gips, one of my favorite salespeople in the world. Good morning to you. Where is that good-looking Ronnie Schnell? I'm going to guess that that's Ronnie Schnell saying hello. So thank you all for being here today. And please now welcome our guest. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning. How you doing? Sorry about that. I had a little technical difficulty getting in here.
I'm just happy to see you here, my friend. Raymond Cardinale. Is it Cardinale or Cardinale?
Cardinale.
Cardinale. Raymond Cardinale is the founder of E3 Performance Solutions. Ray, I'd like to start out, as I do with all these. Why don't you give us the 2-minute background that brought you up to this point? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm born in the Bronx to an Italian family. My dad and mom were first generation, born over here. And my dad taught me work ethic. He taught me there's a wall, there's a way to get around it, over and under or through it, which I didn't realize would help me in my life as I grew up. Pushed myself through college, owned a couple businesses, started my career with Xerox, which really taught me how to build processes and manage people. And then through that, I had some real big sales jobs in vice president sales, owned companies, started this company about 20 years ago. And our main focus is to help managers get more productivity out of their teams on an ongoing basis.
Great stuff. I think you actually could have stopped at "I was born Italian and in the Bronx," because that gives us a pretty good idea of who you
Yeah,
are. You probably didn't have it easy growing up.
yeah.
Great, great. Your company delivers a lot of different solutions, including both coaching and training. And this is a question I get all the time, so I'd like to ask you, what's the difference between coaching and training?
So first of all, we're a behavioral training company, so we understand the behaviors needed to execute. But people mistake managing and coaching, right? Managing is leading a team, doing the things you need to do from a business perspective. Coaching is more one-on-one skill set on what they need to be a better leader, growing people, empowering people. And so with our company, we give you tools to manage, and we do executive coaching one-on-one for the leaders because it's a different skill set. And you'll find that they blend them all the time, right? When you're a leader, sometimes you're managing, you're talking to the person as a manager. You got to be talking more as a leader and helping them understand how to grow, how to empower, how to think on their own, all those kind of things. I'll give you a quick example. I was coaching somebody yesterday, and she said we're going over time management, right, which is a big issue with everybody. She goes, most of my time is spent answering questions to my team. And I said, that's your fault. Don't answer questions. Ask them this, use this word track. With all the information you know, what should you do next? And don't answer it. If they say, I don't know, say, go get a plan, come back when you have a plan. Two things will happen. They won't come back to you with everything because we'll figure it out, or they'll come back to you with a plan that's well thought out that you can add and edit to. It takes them away from using you as the answer bug. And it'll change the way they respond to you, which she was very appreciative of. So sometimes I think we get caught between when am I managing, when am I leading?
And is there a time when a sales leader should be actually giving answers, or is it always better to help guide them to find it on their own?
So there is a time, but the challenge is if they're doing it because it's easier for them to do, so they can get to the next thing. Well, I can answer Jeff right now and get to the next thing, but you didn't help Jeff think through this problem. So that's where the leadership comes in. I'm trying to help Jeff think through this problem so Jeff can handle this problem going forward without asking anybody. And sometimes I'm so busy because we all are busy, right? And I'm like, I can just give Jeff the answer right now. I know the answer. And even in the conversations, Jeff, when you're a leader and you're trying to grow a team through leadership, through empowering people, I have to have a different conversation with you because I have to talk to you knowing I know the answers without giving them to you till I get you there. I have to get you to understand how to ask the right questions and all that instead of giving you the answer early. And as a young manager, I did the opposite. I just gave you the answer because it was easier for me. But you wouldn't go away. You were like a mosquito. I couldn't get rid of you.
Yeah, it's kind of like give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, then you feed him for life. Yeah. And there are certainly times in my coaching practice where I will throw it back in the other person's lap. Well, what do you think you should do? But there are absolutely times when I know that people are paying me for my expert advice and experience. And it's like, here's exactly what I would do. I use both in my coaching practice. And I think it's appropriate. Look, obviously it's always easier. Here's what you should do. Go do it. Unfortunately, sometimes I found that even when you give people instructions like that, they still mess it up because they're not inside your head. And if you can get people to think for themselves, maybe with some guidance, that's a far better long-term solution as opposed to let me fix the Band-Aid real quick and get you back out there. I'm with you. You offer something else on your website that I was unfamiliar with. What is micro training?
So it's bite-size nuggets of skill that you apply. It's tactical, right? It's how do I break this down into something they can execute, right? We've all been in meetings or in seminars where we hear this global philosophy, but how do I actually do something on Monday, do something on Tuesday? It's that old blocking and tackling. So what we do is we break it down to a skill that you can easily execute right after you have the meeting. Whether it's asking questions, negotiating, building value, customer experience, there's something tangible you can do right now. So it gets you to execution quicker.
So little bite-sized doses that they can take action on. Yeah, that's the challenge. When I talk to my training prospects, VPs of sales and presidents, I always tell them the same thing. Look, I'll come in, I'll do a day of training with your people. I'm going to overwhelm them with a million different things.
Right.
And it's impossible for them to take everything implement it the next day. It can only be implemented over time. And the challenge is, as good as a trainer as I might be, and I'm pretty decent at what I do, the best trainer in the world can't be standing with you all the time, and you're not going to pick up everything in one day and remember everything. It really, effective training is not just about the training day or days, it's about the reinforcement afterwards, and that's where the coaching really comes in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have a wide variety of expertise, and one of them is building value. And look, we all know it's essential in sales to build value. What are some of the tips that you give people on how to build value in the prospect's mind?
So, as I've been selling for a long time, very successful in the sales and management world, and as I study the best of the best, there's one thing great salespeople do all the time that makes them great. They get in a conversation with their prospect. And we actually have a leadership program called conversational selling. Because if I can get Jeff to talk, I can hear where his frustration, his pain, his what's working, and I can start building a plan to help him. Or I might not have the right solution. But if I say it, they doubt it. If you say it, it's true. So we teach reps to get in a conversation, get the client talking, figure out how to get the client to open up. What keeps them up at night? What are they going through? And as they're talking, you will start building your solution, which is a value to them, right? Value proposition to them. Because it has to be, everybody thinks of value, and I might be different, Jeff, because I'm from New York and I'm Italian, but everybody thinks value is what I give you. Really, it's what you lose if you don't do this, right? That's really what you're trying to do, because there's pain in where you are today. So if I present something that gives you more, whatever, gives you a backup vendor, gives you more delivery, gives you whatever, if you don't do it, you can be in bigger jeopardy. And that's the picture you want to paint, right? I'm adding value, but I'm also giving you some peace of mind.
And I've dealt with a number of companies where they're really dealing with a commoditized product. And that I think is a challenge. Look, it's easier. Excuse me, it's easier for a guy like you or me to say, here's the value in working with me, because we're not a commodity. If people want E3 or they want Ray, they got to have Ray. If they want my stuff, they got to have me. But I've worked with, like, one of my very, very favorite salespeople who is listening right now. He works in the packaging industry. They make bubble wrap and all kinds of things like that, envelopes. And there's lots of other competitors that do the same thing. So how can a guy like, by the way, he's excellent at this. Maybe I should interview him. But how do you build value in a commoditized market?
So that's a real interesting thing. When I started my career, I was selling copiers for Xerox. And I would walk in an office and they would say, you're the sixth copier person that came here today. So Xerox taught us you have to differentiate yourself somehow. It's not going to be on the machine, because every machine can do something. You could talk about your service, but everybody's going to give the service, speech. So you have to differentiate yourself. So one of the ways is everything you do, everything you say, you do. If you're going to be there at 10 o'clock or in the office at 10 of 10. If the guy asks for 3 things, you give him the 3 things and then your suggestions. So every time you show up, you're doing what he asked and more, what he asked and more. So you're starting to build the differentiation piece between you and the next guy. And the truth, Jeff, is you have to have a little bit of, if you buy from me, you get me. You have to have a little bit of that in there without being arrogant, because that's really what you're getting, right? I learned that selling copiers, and an example where 3 of us got chosen to do a demo for a client. It was an apartment complex that they owned 50 apartments. It was like a 60 machine deal, which was huge. We had to be there Tuesday at 2 o'clock. All of us were lining up and doing a demo right in front of each other, and they were going to pick somebody. I'm in North Carolina. There's a hurricane. I show up because I'm a stupid 20-year-old. I don't know any different. So I'm drenched, couldn't believe it. I show up my machine. I wipe my machine down. The guy goes, what are you doing here? You can't even be out on the roads. I go, well, I told you I'd be here too. I'm here too. That's what I said I would do. He gave me the deal right there, because he said, if I can trust you to come here now, I know I can trust you to go. And I didn't do that to get the sale. I did that because that's what I said I would do. And that's where I think you can differentiate yourself in a commodity. You just got to be a little bit more of everything. What's the saying? I don't want to be 100% better than you at one thing. I want to be 1% better at everything. So when I wrap it up, when I go with Jeff, I get this, I get this, I get this, I get this. When I go with Raymond, I just get this, and it makes a difference.
and not to put too fine a slice on it, but I agree with you of the concept of, well, you get me, but I think it's not a great thing to say to a prospect. Well,
No,
you get me.
yeah,
You've got to be able to explain why getting me makes more sense. And
yeah,
to me, I would add in, besides what you said, that if you're really in a commoditized market, you are no different than any other product or service. But what you can do is be a consultant. You can help your prospect with advice, or your customer with advice that helps them do their job better. That's how I think you can greatly differentiate yourself from every other salesperson, like in Ben's case, who sells bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is bubble wrap. But Ben can give them advice on, here's how you can make more profit. Here's how you reduce expense, whatever it is. That's, I think, a way that they can also differentiate and close deals, even
absolutely.
though the product's the same, the price is about the same, the delivery is about the same. I can help you in other ways. That's where I think they can add some value. You had something else on your website, a word that I love, and I'm going to give you an easy one. What is metrics selling?
So this is funny because we deal with sales managers and salespeople all over the country, and metric selling is the numbers you need to do to make whatever you're trying to make, right? It's an easy thing to set up. It takes discipline to execute, right? But there's a second side of that, how you manage it. So for example, if you want to make $100,000, how many deals do you have to close at what percentage? How many proposals do you have to close that many deals? How many appointments you have to get to that many proposals? How many prospect goals you have to make? So you balance it down to, here's what I got to do every week. What happens is people get off track, and managers don't go back to the process. They start coaching on the outcome. You're not selling enough. Let's get the numbers up. Wait, let's look at the process. Are you making enough prospecting calls? No. Okay, let's just start there. And that's where I think the managers kind of don't help the reps get back on track. It's easy to set up. It's like being on a diet. If you do these 5 things, you will get in shape. But you stop doing 1 or 2 or 3 of these things, and you don't get in shape. So metric selling is setting up the roadmap to hit the numbers you need to hit and all the activities it takes to do that.
And why do you think salespeople don't really like numbers? Why don't they like those metrics? Because most of them don't.
Yeah, which is really interesting, Jeff, because the good ones do, right? The good ones
do, yes, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So I've been married for 25 years. My wife is not a salesperson. We were first married. The first house, we had a attached garage, and we wanted to put a room over it. It was very expensive. So she goes, we can't afford that. I go, yeah, we can, but you're not going to see me for about 3 months. I just got to increase my numbers, get up earlier, work later, work on Saturdays. And I did. 3 months, we had enough money to do it. And she goes, how'd you do that? I didn't do it. The numbers did it, right? The good ones get that. But for some reason, there's 2 things that are really interesting to me as seasoned as I am. The numbers that scare salespeople and their ability to not want to do role plays. I don't get that. Like, they're scared to do a role play. Like, you can't fail here. I'm not going to buy anything. We're just kind of going through word tracks, but they get so scared of those 2 things. But I don't know why they're so scared of it, because it's absolutely the thing that drives success when they figure it out. And then the other thing is, if you're good, which you are, I am, or seasoned, you start looking at, okay, I'm closing at 60%. What if I went to 70%? What if I increase my skills to 10%? I don't do any more work and I make 20% more income. That's when you start really figuring out how the numbers work, right?
Yeah. And if somebody's closing at 60, 70, or 80%, I want to take their seminar rather than mine, because those are great numbers. But you're 100% right. My previous boss, before I opened up my own firm, taught me the value of numbers. All my life, I said, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm a people guy. I don't like numbers. I'm horrible at math. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I just suck at math. I'm better at verbal stuff, but did not believe, I don't need any numbers. Just let me go do my job. But he proved to me, by knowing your numbers, you can do exactly what you said. You can achieve any goal. And I did take that to heart, and I now implement the same thing with my coaching clients. The numbers are your friend. I think you said something interesting. You're right. Most salespeople don't want to role play. And I think it's the fear of being embarrassed. It's the fear of looking bad in front of their teammates, or looking bad to their boss. But all great performers rehearse. I use the example quite often of I've been to see Phantom of the Opera 6 times. It's the same play every single time, but guess what? They rehearse constantly. It's the same exact play. I've seen it with 6 different casts of characters, because I've taken different people to be exposed to the play. But they rehearse some more. I've done a lot of local theater and I do stand-up comedy now. Guess what? You rehearse. That's how you get good. And you don't always look good in the beginning. It takes time, but you learn from your mistakes, and that gives you more strength and power to go and be the person that you want to be. So I'm with you. I understand why they don't want to, accept, you know what, as someone who trains sales leaders, I'm hoping you feel the same way. And as someone who works with sales leaders, it's like, sometimes you just have to get people to do the things they don't want to do in order to be the person they want to be. And that's a paraphrase from Vince Lombardi.
You know what's really funny, Jeff? If you came to my company, we talk in role plays. When we're going through a situation, one of us will take a client, one of us will say, we'll start working it out. And for me, it's the working out that I don't care if I do it wrong the first time. I'm not there yet. I'm trying to get, like you, when you're practicing to go up to do a set of comedy, you're kind of flushing it out, venting it out, feeling it out. Like, I don't look at it as I'm failing. I'll tell you a really funny story now. I know I was very aggressive when I was younger. I got my first job with Xerox in North Carolina, so I was a northerner in the South. And we go to training, and Xerox is very aggressive. And I'd ask the stupidest question. And my friends would be like, that's such a stupid question. I know, but when I'm out on the road Monday alone, and I don't know how to answer that, I need to know how to answer that. And guess what? I'm still going to kick your butt. You know, that's how we would talk to each other. But it's like, I didn't care if it was a stupid question. I don't understand it. But we were taught that early on. We were taught that role playing, just all you're doing is vetting it out. You know, a lot of times I hear you say something and go, oh, I like that word track. I'm using that word track. So we're always talking in role plays.
Yeah, I'd rather make a mistake in the office than in front of a prospect, because there's money on the line every single time. Exactly. And there's a price to pay for everything. There's nothing wrong with looking stupid in front of your teammates, but you don't want to look dopey in front of a prospect, because that's how you feed your family. I believe we're in agreement about something else, and there's great power in self-generating leads. I'm often asked, should I hire an outside company? Should I work my leads myself, generate leads myself? And it's always, to me, look, if you can find a great company that can really set appointments for you, generate leads, and they're going to do a great job, terrific. Except nobody cares more about your leads and your appointments than you do. What methods are you seeing work best? Why do you believe that in self-generating leads? And what methods are you seeing that are working well to self-generate leads today?
So there's a lot of things you'll hear, right? Always network, be in a group, all that stuff, right? Pay attention to your economy, what's going on, let everybody know what you do. All that stuff is true. But here's the single thing that I think we've helped more companies with. It's referrals. And the reason I say that is because 85% of people, when they buy, will give you a referral. 17% of salespeople ask. It's so ridiculous. We've turned companies around by saying you don't have an option. Every sale you have to ask for a referral, and they get all these referrals, which turn into sales because they're easier calls to make. So I always said your referrals are your best place to get self-generated leads, right? Because you might not need it, but you know somebody else who needs it, and somebody else who needs it, that kind of thing. So we work really hard on everything. You have to do everything. You have to network. You have to be around. You have to, whatever the groups are you want to be in. But referrals is the biggest thing you can make a home run with right now. So I promise your salespeople aren't asking on a continuum basis.
Yeah, why not? Why aren't they asking?
I think they're scared. They're scared. Like, I got a sale from you. I don't want to keep pushing. I'm like, that's exactly when they're going to be the happiest with you, is right now. So, we just had a company. So there's 780 office salespeople, 300 offices, 60 managers, and we just increased the referrals by 35%, just by saying you have to ask every time. That's all we said. We gave them a little script to make it easier, but it's like you have to ask. So now they're asking.
Yep. I have a friend.
That's the biggest piece for self-generating leads.
I'm with you. First of all, a well-made referral, you're halfway closed before you even walk in the door.
Right.
Because you're being referred by a trusted source to them. So you're halfway there. It's crazy to not be asking for referrals. And I actually have a dear friend who's an outstanding customer service trainer. And there's an annual trade show here on Long Island. We used to walk it together. And one year I couldn't go because I had the flu. And she called me up from the trade show saying, I'm doing an informal survey and I'm talking to people about referrals and asking them on average, how many referrals do you get a month? And the answer she got most often was 0. And then she asked, why don't you get more referrals? And the answer was, well, I really don't ask. It's insane to not. And by the way, you said something brilliant. Somebody just bought from you They're buying because they're happy. They just made a great decision. That's a perfect time to ask for referrals. But I think you also threw in there, I don't think you said the words, but I ask people for referrals when they don't do business with
I do
me.
too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just because you aren't in a position to pay me the amount of money I'm asking or don't see whatever the reason is, you still may know somebody else that might be interested in speaking with me. So I'm with you. Ask everybody, ask often. My ex-wife used to be embarrassed constantly. Not that I was trying to embarrass her, but she used to say that, why are you always telling people what you do when we're at a party or at a social event or something like that? I said, do you like the house we live in? Do you like the cars we drive? That's why, because by asking people, some of them are going to say yes. Not everybody's going to give you a referral, but some are going to say yes. And my very first client, when I went off on my own, I was very fortunate to land this big deal. And after about 3 months, I'm sitting in the senior vice president of sales office, and we're just having a conversation. How are things going? Blah, 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 that kind of thing. And I said, by the way, as you probably know, I build my business through direct referrals from people just like you. Who do you know that I should be speaking with? And he folded his hands and he looked at me and goes, I've been waiting for you to ask, Jeff. I've heard you teaching my people to say that. I've been waiting. And he gave me 2 great referrals on the spot. And I want to pass this on, and I hope you'll agree. When somebody says they're happy to give you a referral, my first thing is thank you. And my second thing is, would you mind picking up the phone and giving them a quick call right now and letting them know to expect a call from me? And I said that to this guy, and he said, no. I said, no problem. One of my things, Ray, is, when somebody says no, do you give them something easier to say yes to? Right. I said, well, would you send them an email? He said, oh, I'd be glad to do that. And while I was sitting there, he emailed these 2 different people. Jeff's the greatest thing since sliced bread, blah, 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 blah. Got 2 appointments, closed 2 deals. It's crazy not to ask.
It is. I do the same thing. Call now, email second. I do that too.
Yeah.
Or text, whatever's easier second. Yeah, I do that too.
Here's one more tip. When somebody says they'll email, which is much easier for most people, the next thing I say is, would it help you if I write the email for you? I'll send it over to you. You can edit it in any way you want, but if you like it as it is, you can just cut and paste it into a new email and send it off to whoever you want to send it to. And what do they all say? They say yes, because you're saving them time and effort. But what I'm really trying to do is make sure that I'm getting introduced to the person they want to introduce me to in the best possible way, because you're better at selling E3 than your prospect. Somebody who's making a referral is just like, I'm better at selling myself than somebody is in making introductions. So always offer to write it for them. I think that just makes perfect sense.
And it's easier to edit than create.
Absolutely.
I do that all the time. I'll send you an email. Just go ahead and add your words to it and send it out, because it's easier for you to look at it, make a change or 2 and send it out. You're not going to sit there and try to think of everything I can do for somebody else. I always say it's easier to edit than create. So
100. Look, a lot of the coaching clients I have are not terrific writers. And I always tell them, I'm happy to help you with your writing, but I'm not going to write your email for you. I don't care how bad it is. You write the email, send it to me. I'll polish it up. Right, you're absolutely right. I can polish something in seconds. If I have to think of what to say, it takes a little longer. You also deal, like I do, with a lot of sales managers. What are some of the challenges that you see sales managers dealing with today?
So there's obviously headcount things going on because of COVID. So that's a little stress to the working world. But besides that, the biggest thing we see is they're focused on the outcome, not the process. They don't understand that it's what you do today affects you 90 days from now. So if I'm going in to talk to Jeff because Jeff's numbers are down and his funnel's light and it's February 15th, I'm not turning you around this month. So I got to go back into what are the activities you need to do from the metrics to get back up, right? So I'll give you an example of something that happened to me when I was young and I didn't realize until I got older. I was a baseball player growing up, played minor league baseball. I was really good, kind of good, because I only made it to single A. But I was 16. I made this American Legion team that was the best in about 5 states. We had people made the pros in there. But I was 16 playing with 18-year-olds. So one of the strengths I had is I could hit the ball. Like, I didn't strike out hardly at all. I could not hit a curveball. Because remember, now I'm having 18-year-olds pitch to me. So my coach is working with me. We get in a tournament. We're in the finals. We're in late innings, man on base. We're down a run. Perfect situation for me because I usually put the ball in play. I struck out. So I'm really distraught. I'm walking over to the dugout. He runs at me like a kid going to Disney World saying, that was a great at bat. I was like, Coach, I struck out. He goes, you fouled off 4 curveballs. You can hit a curveball. He wasn't worried about curveball in play. First step is you got to be able to hit him. Now we put him in play. Then we look for base hits. He was so focused on the process, and it turned me around like that. I never couldn't hit a curveball from that minute right there. And he was focused on the process. We sometimes don't focus on the process. We focus on the outcome because we're responsible for them. I get that. We're responsible for the numbers. But if I'm going to coach a rep that's maybe marginal, I'm not looking at turning him around. I'm looking at what is his activity? How can I get the activities back up to what he's supposed to be doing? How can I help him with that? It might be prospecting. It might be you're not presenting the right solutions because you're not asking enough questions. It might be you're not listening to what the customer says, whatever it is. But I'm going to go back to the process because once I get the process in place, the numbers happen. What is John Wooden, one of the best basketball coaches ever, never watched a game film from another team? Said if we just do our job, they got to play us. Let's just be really good at what we do. So I find sales managers struggle with that because they're responsible for the numbers and they're trying to turn them around quickly without going to the process of how you get there. To me, that's the biggest thing.
Yep. Got it. We're about halfway through. We're talking to Raymond Cardinale, the founder of E3 Performance Solutions, a training and coaching and consulting firm. And Ray, we actually have a question from someone who says, I like the term word track. Could you explain further what you mean by that?
So in my sales career, I'm always trying to figure out how to position my words properly to communicate what I'm trying to communicate. So the reason why I like vetting out a conversation or role play like Jeff and I were talking about is because you're going to change my words to be what they would be so somebody can understand what I'm saying. Right. So the more it's like when I'm talking with you, Jeff, we're going back and forth. I'm formulating how I'm going to say that to the next person because that's how I think. Right. So you're going to give me the ability to say, oh, the way Jeff said that was way easier to understand than what I said. I'm using those words. I'm using this word. So for me, the word track is how do I communicate best what I'm trying to say in the words I'm using. And we actually have a module called Word Tracks That Work that does that for phone scripts and scripts that helps reps go, oh, okay, these are the words I should be saying so they understand what I'm asking for.
Yeah, I love that because I truly believe that one word can be the difference between closing a sale and not closing a sale. And I carefully listen to every word my coaching clients say, and I'm constantly, giving. I like that, but what about trying this one? I was at a comedy show the other night. I wasn't in the show. I was just listening, and somebody said one word, and I said, "Oh, that's a much better word than I'm not taking their joke. It's for a different joke, obviously, but that there was one word. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's way better than what I said. I'll be testing that out next week when I do my next gig. But sometimes one word makes a huge difference. Don Levine, our sales recruiter here on Long Island says, what do you lose by not doing this? What a great pattern to interrupt instead of talking about what I offer. Absolutely right, Don.
But Jeff, to that point, when you're coaching a salesperson, and you're trying to change their direction on what they're not doing, okay, role play that back to me. How would you say that to a client? Test them right there. Instead of saying, you know what to do, right, Jeff? Okay, go do it. No. Test them right there.
Yeah, there's nothing like practice. In the days of disco, that's how old I am. I was a competitive dancer and I had a dance partner. And very early on when we started rehearsing, she said to me, Jeff, you don't rehearse on the dance floor. You rehearse in the studio so that your performance when you're actually competing is perfect. And that's it. I could not agree with you more. And I hear it all. I don't want to role play. It's a waste of time. You want to be greater, don't you? One of the examples I always give, and I'm not a sports fan at all. I know there's some big event coming up Sunday. I'm not sure. No, I know what it is, but I just don't care about it. But football players, I'm not a sports fan, but I do know this. Football players. There's a guy on the team called the quarterback. He throws the ball and, that guy gets paid 15, 20, 30, $40 million. I mean, just huge amounts of money. There are other people who catch the ball and they make 5, 10. I mean, these guys make a lot of money. Well, they play a game once a week, on a Sunday, a Monday, a Thursday, whenever it is. But what are they doing all week long? Well, they're not sitting around eating bonbons. They're practicing every single day to be the best they can possibly be. And I agree with you 100%, Raymond. That's what salespeople should be doing too. Look, if you want to make $50,000 a year, okay. I don't know why you're in sales if that's all you want to make, but that's okay. If that's what you're committed to, that's fine. But if you really want to succeed and make the kind of money that sales offers, $80,000, $100,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, you got to be the best you can possibly be. Otherwise, you're winging it and hoping for the best. And I've never found hope to be a great strategy for success.
Agree with that.
Ray, in sales, we often, most companies have some kind of a contract with their client once they're closed, but you have something called the relationship contract. What is the relationship contract about?
So the relationship contract is a behavioral understanding of when you're going back to commodity, right? When you're selling, everything you say you're going to do, you do from the handshake to the close. And in the customer's mind, you become very dependable. So it's like, hey, these are the three things I want to talk about. You show up with those three things and then maybe suggestions you have. I was with a guy on a call Wednesday, pretty high-end salesperson, makes a lot of money. And the customer goes, you didn't give me what I asked for. He goes, I know, but this is better. Okay, wrong. The customer needs to get, so the relationship contract is being on time, giving them the proposal they want, doing everything you said. I'm going to do a tour, doing the tour, whatever. So you're building these little pieces of credibility throughout the thing. So every time I talk to Jeff, I get what I'm supposed to get. Every time Jeff says something, he does it. So Jeff, in my mind, is becoming very dependable. Raymond didn't show up for a meeting, had a sick kid. I get it, but he didn't show up for a meeting. Raymond was late. Raymond was this. Jeff wasn't. So the relationship contract is from when you say hello to when you close, doing all the things you said you're going to do the way you said you're going to do them.
I love that, Ray. I actually
seems simple, but today you can win deals by doing that
because so many people don't. And I actually about a year ago had a change of mind on this subject because I used to always teach people under promise and over deliver. But my good friend Todd Capone, who wrote the Transparency Sale, said, no, don't under promise and over deliver. Promise and deliver, which is exactly what you're saying. Do what you say you don't have to promise less and give more to show people, oh, I always give extra. Just do what you say you're going to do, because that actually separates you from most people who don't do what they say they're going to do.
It's true.
Could not agree with you more, my friend. I have a friend, another friend, his name is Jeff Keller. He wrote a book called Attitude is Everything. And while I don't agree that attitude is everything, attitude certainly is important in sales. What are some of the winning attitudes that you help salespeople develop, and how can we develop them ourselves?
So your positive attitude comes from confidence, right? And confidence comes from education. The more you know, the more you've had success, the more you come across as being a confident person. So attitude is important, but also the skill of understanding how to be good, right? Like I know the industry that I'm talking to. I know how their metrics are. I know their competition. I know what my solutions can do. So when I'm in front of you, I can be articulate about what we do and how we can help you, right? That comes from learning. That comes from putting work in. But the attitude thing's interesting. And I know in the world, positive attitude has cured diseases when people have positive attitude. So there's a big thing. But there's a really funny case story that 3M did. Where they would bring you to Minnesota for a week and train you as a new rep. So you're a young kid out of college. And the last day you would go down to the end of the block and get your first order. So it's pretty exciting getting your first order. So they go through training with this kid. He goes down to the street. He comes back with an order. And the manager looks at it and goes, we've been kicked out of that company. How did you get an order? And he went to the wrong building and he still got an order. And the thing was, you told him all week he's getting an order. So he went down there thinking, I'm getting an order, and he went down and got an order. So you do have to have a little bit of an attitude of, I think I can help you. I think I'm here, and you don't have to be arrogant about it, but I think I can help you. And the more you talk, the more I can find out where I can help you. But I also have to have knowledge. So Xerox used to say hard work and product knowledge. Sales ability beats product knowledge every day of the week because I can outsell you, but you need both to be really good, right? So you need both. So I'll tell you a funny sales story you'll laugh at. So I'm in the contract furniture business, where reps can make a lot of money. You're selling to corporations, and we're selling about a $5 million deal over a couple of years to Hartford Insurance Group in Hartford, Connecticut. And 4 of us get picked, dealers, to go in and present. They're going to pick one of the 4. So they already approved the manufacturers, right? I represent one, the other guy represents one. So I'm walking in with the manufacturer's rep. They make me go last. Now I just came from Xerox, right? So I can know how to sell. I walk in the room. There's 9 people in there. I turn to the rep. I go, shut your mouth. Don't say a word. And he looks at me because, he wants to, and they go, okay, Raymond, you're up. I go, I just have one question. I said, who's going to pay for the dumpster removal cost of this project? They're like, what? We're talking about modules. Okay, that's $350,000. And we're not paying for it. Who's going to pay for it? And they start like getting mad at me because I wouldn't present. And then I said, if you pick me, you'll never have surprises like that. That was my whole presentation. But I learned from being in deals, trying to be like everybody else and not winning. And why did I lose? No, I'm gonna tell you why you need to pick me. You need to pick me because there's never gonna be a surprise with me. 2 hours later, we got the deal. Of course, the rep was mad at me for about 3 years.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I would assume when the paycheck came in, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I say that not to be arrogant, to say I read the room, I knew what I was doing, I was very well versed, I was ready to go. They weren't going to listen to anything I said. It was like Charlie Brown's teacher talking, no matter what I said. So I had to figure out a way to shock them. And I had that number that was real. I knew nobody else was talking about it, so I took a shot.
Yeah, I'd like to add in that if you don't come from an attitude of service, then you're in the wrong business. If your attitude is I need to close a sale because I got to pay my mortgage, people smell commission breath. But when you're truly there to say, let's see if I can help you with something, whatever your pain is, whatever your challenge is, let's see if I can help you with that. When you come from a place of I'm here to truly serve you, as opposed to I need to get paid, I think prospects can smell that, and that's who they want to deal with. And by the way, I'm a big fan, and I would guess you are too, is if you talk to a prospect and you're not the right solution, you should tell them. You shouldn't have to wait for them to tell you.
Absolutely.
And I'm always happy to refer somebody else if I don't feel that I'm the right solution for them.
So that's a funny thing, because I teach this all the time. The only thing you have as a commodity in sales is time. Where do you spend your time? Do not spend your time with somebody that you can't help. Say thank you very much and get out. Because that's all you have is time.
It's the one thing you can't get back.
Yeah.
You can always make more money, but you can't get back the time. And I'm a big fan of not wasting a second with somebody who I can't help, is jerking me around or anything like that. Because there are prospects out there waiting who actually need what you have, and you're much better spent finding those people and speaking to them than wasting time trying to talk somebody into something that they don't want, don't need, or can't afford, or just don't see you as the right solution.
I agree.
You're also very big, Raymond, on management training, which I think that's crucial, because in my experience working with a lot of large companies, that's where they fall down the worst. And salespeople need an effective sales manager, except unless you're a superstar, which most salespeople aren't. So many salespeople that I've talked to have a dream or a goal of getting into management. What advice do you have for salespeople that would like to see themselves become a sales leader someday?
So that's a great question. So in our world, in the business world, that mistake has been made so often, where somebody's selling and they put them into management, and it's a different role. So you talked about service. Our product is a tool for a manager. We don't deliver the product, they deliver it. It's a tool for a manager to run a meeting monthly to keep productivity and have coaching opportunities, right? So it's a tool for them to get better. What happens is you become a manager because you know the products or services, you can run a P&L, you might know the competition layout, but developing people is a different skill. And a lot of managers don't have that. So if I was coaching somebody, I would say, here's the skills that a good leader, good manager needs. And if you don't have them, go get them. If you have them, then you're on the right path to become a sales leader. Because we often, and like you, Jeff, I work with everybody across the country, find managers that don't know how to develop people at all. They don't know how to talk to them. They don't know how to help empower them. They don't know how to get them to do. I'm like, but they know how to sell, right? Which is what we've done for years. That's wrong. We promote you're a good salesperson, Jeff. I'm going to have you run this office. So I always say, here's the skills you need. Let's talk about what you have, and let's talk about what you need to go obtain. If you want to do that, here's kind of the things you need to work on.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what you said earlier. I can fix the problem, or I can help you learn how to fix the problem. Yeah. At one point, I was the co-national sales director for a company called Frost & Sullivan, and I had 45 salespeople, inside salespeople, working for me. And quite often I'd walk around, plug my headset into their phone, and listen to the conversation. And it was everything I could do to hold myself back from saying, "Shut up! I'm going to tell you what to do," and just close the deal for them. Because as a sales leader, somebody with a lot of experience, you can often hear a conversation and go, "Oh, you're killing me. You just shut up and watch what I should do." But that doesn't help. And Somebody who truly wants to go into management. By the way, a lot of the people who think they want to go into management find out later on when they do that this was a big mistake, because it's a thankless job quite often, and you have to have a certain type of personality, a certain come from, and you truly have to be selfless, because it's about helping other people succeed instead of you doing the work. Not an easy gig. And you said something else I think is brilliant. You're the top salesperson, you got promoted. Well, not only did you probably create a crappy manager, but you just lost your best salesperson.
Right. Out of a territory. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Very, very difficult. Something else I found interesting on your website is that you say that conflict is a natural part of the workplace, and that it can actually be used to strengthen relationships in teams if it's managed well. Excuse me. How does one manage conflict well?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things you have to do, but one is you have to identify what the root problem is. You have to communicate clearly. You have to gain consensus on what the goals are, put a plan together, and execute it. But a lot of that goes back to your behavior. You have to be who you say you're going to be, because you have an adversarial person. They got to see you being a person that's doing what they say. And I was late 20s, left Xerox, went back to Hartford, Connecticut, bought a furniture dealership with my friend. His office manager was a 50-something-year-old lady who hated me for no reason. Everybody loves Raymond. I couldn't understand it.
Wait a minute. You're from the Bronx and you're Italian. Yeah. Isn't that enough of a reason?
Yeah. So she was really good at her job, and I just made it work and everything like that. So one day, all of a sudden, she's on my side and everything's working and we're getting along and all that. And I kind of pulled her aside and said, "So Jerry Ann, tell me what changed." She goes, "Well, we had dumpsters in the back that you had to clean out. It was a dirty job. And one night I was there, and you're in a suit. I was there at 8 o'clock, and I went out there and cleaned the dumpsters, which wasn't my job. I just did it because it needed to be done. Didn't say anything, didn't tell everybody, did it. And she happened to be in the office with her daughter, who was doing homework. She had to work late on some numbers. And she saw me do that without telling anybody. And she goes, "All right, you're a guy I need to follow." And I didn't do that on purpose. I did it because it needed to be done, right? But sometimes they have to see you're a person of your word, and you have to get them on your side fighting the same thing. In the beginning, you're fighting against each other. That's why you got to kind of get to what's the root? How do we do this together? What's the plan? Let's execute it together. And most of the time, it's like a smoker who stops smoking. They're radically on your side. Because you worked with them to put them. So most of the time, those are really strong confidence on your side, helping you with other people. They become helping you lead the group.
That's great.
And it takes time, though, and people don't want to put the time in, right? It takes a little time.
Yeah. There's something else that my coach taught me, and I had this conversation with somebody just yesterday, and it was a tough concept for me to accept when she first shared it with me, but she shared with me that everybody's doing the best they can. And I had a conflict at one point with an office manager at a company I was doing outsourced sales management for. One of the services I offer is outsourced sales management. So I become the de facto sales manager, but part-time, everything's virtual. This was pre-COVID, though, when I was doing a lot of it in person, and I just did not get along with this lady. And my coach happened to also be coaching the team there, and I used to complain about her all the time. And she looked at me, she goes, "She's doing the best she can, Jeff." She's not doing the best she can, and it took me a while to realize she wasn't living up to my expectations, but she was doing the best she could. And when you realize that people are trying their best, it gives you a different way to look at them and interact with them. And when you change your views about them,
absolutely,
something changes in them.
Absolutely.
Love that. There's something you mentioned earlier, time management. And I'm huge on that. Whenever I do training, we always go around the room and I let everybody introduce themselves. And I always ask, what's your biggest struggle and challenge? What's the thing that keeps you most from making more money? And 50% of every audience says time management is their biggest trouble. And then as soon as somebody says it, the other 50% say, yeah, time management is a big problem for me too. What tips do you have for effective time management?
So first of all, you can't manage time. You can manage activities. And that's why the good ones are slaves to their calendars, right? They put everything on their calendars. And then you look, there's two pieces. First is you got to have everything on your calendar. Second of all, it's got to be productive work, right? Am I working like the funnel? Am I working on the most important things for me to work on, right? Because busy work gets in the way of that. And I have a funny saying when we do leadership training, I always say this to the group. Busy is an excuse to not get it done. Everybody's busy. Raise your hand if you're not busy. Everybody's busy. So we always say you can't manage time. You can manage activities. You have to be doing the activities that are most important to grow in your business. So I've been married 25 years. My wife now asks me when I come home, did you have a productive day or a busy day? Because she knows that's how I think, right? Because sometimes we have a busy day. That's life. You're just going around in circles, putting out fires. So she knows my productive days, I'm higher than my busy days, right? Because busy days are usually a pain in the neck, but it's life. But I think like that, so I act like that. And my calendar is my Bible. I put everything on my calendar. And so the managing time thing is kind of, you can't really, like you said, you can't get it back. You can't manage time. What you can manage is activities. And if you manage activities, the right activities, you'll stay productive longer, right?
Yep. Let's see. Somebody's saying, I always say that you can't manage time. You can manage activity. I add, you can manage your energy and you can manage your focus. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Positively. Yeah. And it's funny how, so many of us say the same things. I too live and die by my calendar. And I always say there's a big difference between being busy and productive. You can be incredibly busy and not productive at all.
Absolutely.
It's very difficult to do the reverse. It's hard to be productive without being busy. Something I always teach people is you've got to be focusing on RGAs, revenue generating activities. So many times I find people are very busy, but they're not doing the thing that's most likely to help them. In fact, I'm sure there are three types of learners, visual, audio, kinesthetic. We're all three, but we all have a dominant part. And mine is I'm a visual learner. So I make signs for myself. And one of the signs that hangs right over my camera so I can see it constantly says, am I doing the thing at this moment that's most likely to result in income? Am I doing the thing at this moment that's most likely to result in income? Because it's right above my sight line. I see it all the time. And I'm constantly asking myself that question. And I find that when I share that with people, that if you answer that question honestly, you can be more productive. Am I doing the thing? If I'm not doing the thing at this moment that's most likely to result in income, I need to be doing something else.
Right.
Why am I screwing around? Everything has to get done. I get it, but there are things that are more important than others. And I'm so with you on the calendar. I call that calendarization. Yeah. Everything goes on your calendar. I'm looking at the clock and we're quickly running out of time. There's a lot of talk about AI today and apps like ChatGPT. I don't know how much you're up on that. Are you seeing AI being used in sales? If you are, how can we use it to our advantage? And do you have any concerns about it?
I don't have concerns, but I think we're not there yet. I think sometimes the technology is a little bit ahead of how the salespeople behavior is. I know the LinkedIn chat thing is relatively new. I don't know. So I always say this. I look at everything, going back to your sign, I look at everything as a tool for me to produce. Is that tool good for me or not good? I don't really care about what the tool is. I'm not like, if it looks pretty, doesn't matter to me. Does it help me stay more productive? And some of the AI is obviously around, and it's going to be around for a long time. But some of that stuff's not, in my world, it's not proven yet that it really is something that that's kind of vetted out yet, is what I guess I'd say.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of concern, and you probably see it like I do all the time. Salespeople are going to be replaced. They're not going to be needed in 5 years. I disagree. I mean, I think AI is amazing. I also find it slightly terrifying, but it's incredible. Just last week, I post a motivational quote. I send out emails to all my outsourced sales management clients on a Monday. And just for kicks last week, I went to ChatGPT and say, write a 1-paragraph motivational quote like a sales trainer would write it. I got to tell you, it was perfect. It was on the money. I said, look what ChatGPT wrote. It was really brilliant. So I don't think it's going to replace us, but I think that salespeople do need to stay aware of all the tools that are out there.
Yep.
Keep abreast of what's coming up and use the tools that work best for you. But I don't think AI is going to replace, at least not anytime soon, that personal interaction that only a human being can give.
Right.
It's the same thing, with people who like to send out information, send out brochures. If brochures work to sell, we'd all be out of business. There would be no salespeople. There still needs to be, at least for now, a human who can have a conversation, form a relationship. And I don't know that ChatGPT is going to do that anytime soon. Right. There was something else, and we are running out of time, but something else I have to ask you about, because you posted it. I hope you remember. This was about 3 or 4 months ago. You posted that some salespeople are not good at taking notes. It's crucial, as far as I'm concerned, to take notes when you're in the sales process. But you actually had some tips, if you can remember them. Do you have any tips for taking better notes?
Well, I think first of all, it's what you just said. It's crucial to do. There's two reasons you do it. If I pull out a notebook and start taking notes, you think I'm taking your meeting more seriously. So it helps you with the client connection. And second is it keeps you on track. You're trying to build a story that you're going to go back and say, here's how I can help you. So you're listening so it goes to understanding how to listen. And listen isn't just words. You're reading body language, you're reading cues. So effective listening, taking notes. When I start taking notes, my behavior goes to paying attention more. Whether I want to or not. When you start writing stuff down, I'm looking at you. So what is the saying? Listening to understand versus listening to respond. I'm really listening to understand you. So it puts you in that frame of mind. So for me, the first thing is, why wouldn't you do that? Because it would only help you with one, the client, and two, just being able to talk back to the client, in whatever they said or whatever.
To remember what they said. Yeah.
Right. And it's really funny, Jeff. I have a great memory. God bless me with that. But I have so many clients. We'll talk over a 3-month period. And they'll go, how did you remember that? I wrote it down. That's how I remember it.
I actually have a crappy memory, but I get complimented on my memory all the time because, like you, I'm taking notes. Everything goes into my CRM.
Right.
And before I speak to you the next time, I'm looking back at what we said last time. And sometimes it's just the littlest things. And I use this example regularly, but you're chatting with somebody, how was your weekend? Oh, it was my kid's 5th birthday. Well, I immediately put that in my notes. I set a reminder for a year from now, minus 1 week, to get in touch with that person and say, isn't that little David's birthday coming up next week? Is he going to be 6? Now, I absolutely don't remember that stuff. But when you do that kind of stuff, that's when they start loving you, because you're caring about them as a human being. Absolutely. You're actually listening to them. We're so out of time, but there is one more question I do want to ask before we go. I often find that even very good salespeople who are great during the sales process, they choke when they get to discussing the price. They absolutely fall apart. What is a clear perspective on price, and how can we develop that?
So, like some of the things we talked about today already, it's interesting to me that salespeople choke when they have to go ask for the price or close, because it's just part of the process. It's just another step. You go from prospecting to discovery to presentation to putting a quote in front of them to closing. It's just another part. And so for me, usually, and it's funny you say that, because we'll get called all the time, Jeff, and vice president of sales say, my people can't close, you need to help us. And then you do some due diligence, like, it's not closing. They're not asking questions. They're not doing discovery. They're not presenting. It's way back here. It's not on closing. So for me, the good ones, it's not anxious because they've done all the work. They know there's a solution that this person needs because you said you need it and I have the answer. So it's just another step. When you don't have that confidence, I think that's where they kind of get a little nervous about the money or actually closing the deal, because they haven't done the work all the way up. Because the work's done back here. The close isn't the work. The work's done back here, right? Yeah, the good salespeople have you wrapped up way back here. We know where we're taking you, because you've talked to us, we've done discovery, we understand your need, what your pain points are, what your frustrations, what's working. We understand all that. So we're already way ahead of that. So for me, when somebody chokes on the close, it's because they haven't done enough work over here. So they don't really think it's the right answer, or there could be a rebuttal they don't know how to handle, or whatever that is. It's usually never closing, we find out.
I have the same exact experience, and I get that same call all the time. Jeff, can you come teach my people how to close? My answer is always this, Ray. I'll be happy to come teach your people how to close. That's a 5-minute conversation. What are we going to do with the rest of the day?
Right.
Because what your people really need to do is they don't know how to sell. The closing should be the natural outcome of the sales process done right. And I think another thing before we finish, one of the reasons salespeople so often choke on price is because they're looking at a number that they personally couldn't afford. And they're putting their pocketbook into the other person's back pocket, their wallet. And I got to tell you something. I'm not concerned about how much money my prospect has. That's their issue. My job is to have a great conversation with them so that they see what I can do for them and hopefully choose to do business with me. And then they get to decide whether A, what I'm offering is valuable enough for the amount that I'm asking for? And B, do they trust that I'm actually going to deliver that? Whether they have the money or not, that's up to them. I don't worry about what's in my prospect's pocket. That's their issue. So yeah, the only other thing I'll say before we close is when you do give your price, just do it with complete confidence, as if, of course, this process is going to see the value and is going to say yes, because this is a great deal. If you don't have that kind of confidence, that's why people get very, well, I know it's a lot of money, but the price is X. Why would you set yourself up for a lack of success like that? And I hate this because we are out of time. Ray, I'm going to share my screen here. And if you would, please, for the people who are not watching us live, would you tell them how they can reach you if they're interested in potentially working with you and your company?
So the best way is to email me at Raymond at e3performancesolutions.com, or to call me at 615-678-1499. That's my personal voicemail, and I'll get back to you. Raymond at e3performancesolutions.com, 615-678-1499. Jeff, this has been great. I could talk to you forever about this stuff.
Me too, my friend. And you can also follow Ray on LinkedIn. I know he's got well over 5,000 people who follow him every single day. He's always posting valuable content. Ray, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your brilliance generously. I truly appreciate it. And I'll end as I do every week. Gang, please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. So get out there and make sales happen. Thank you, Ray. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. I'm pressing the wrong button.